When we listen to our body, we notice if the breath changes, we notice if we're tightening up somehow, we're paying attention. So this couple of months is really inspired by Deb Dana's work. Her Sounds True course is excellent, as is her book, and her rhythmofregulation.com is her website. So thank you to Deb for being so innovative in what she does. She deeply understands the nervous system, and she has a lot of different ways of exploring that. So just as a refresher, or if someone's not as familiar with it, this is our autonomic nervous system that runs in the background. Ventral vagal, which I was referring to, is when we feel connected to the greater world. We're not in a state of panic or shame or anything like that. We're just kind of settled. Sympathetic arousal is our fight and flight. So when we have an experience of danger, then we will go into one of these responses. And dorsal vagal is that really frozen, I can't cope, I need to just block it all out. So the idea is not to try and stop ourselves from experiencing these, it's to notice them. And when we're listening with our body, we really notice them a lot more quickly. And then as we're noticing them, then we can come back up into that, or as she says, keep a toe in our ventral vagal, into that state of, I know where I am, I know I'm safe, and we can work with that. So let's just kind of in our own mind, or if you wanted to put something in the chat, you're welcome to do that. What does this ventral vagal feel like? And it's a continuum. So we have this calm, regulated, kind of quiet state. And then if we're really feeling grounded and connected, then we have more energy can come into that passionate, abundant, live energy. So just notice what other words you might use for this state of feeling in trust and connect. So kind of the entry point and that feeling of it's really expansive, focused, ease and flow. I was just thinking about being at the ocean and walking at the ocean. And oftentimes that's where I'll just feel really, really present, at peace, warmth in chest, peaceful, trusting myself, confident. Mhm. So we all know this experience. This is common to us. We've experienced this many times. Inspired. Yes. Creative might be another one. I played, well, before COVID, I played the flute in an amateur jazz band for seniors. And when I was improvising, that was definitely, there's a state of really being present, and it's really fun as well. So maybe fun is another word that I would add in there. Yeah. So glimmers, as Deb calls them, are these micro moments of ventral energy sparks. And one of the things that we know about fight, flight, and freeze is that we're not really present and available to what's around us. And so if you're walking on the beach, like I was just talking about, and sometimes if I'm really worried about something or obsessing about something, I'm not as present to the experience at the beach as I might be. If you're at home and you're working at something and someone you love comes in and you just kind of go hi and you don't really notice that they're there, it's a very different experience than pausing, looking them in the eye, getting up, maybe having a hug or something. So what she's talking about and what we all know from experience is that we need to look for these. And Rick Hansen talks about the neuroscience of that, how if this positive experiences just kind of flows through and we don't notice them, it doesn't change the neural networks in our brains. But if we do notice them and we pause for a moment and pay attention to them, and it could be 10 or 20 seconds is all we need. But we need to be able to kind of shift into noticing these and just let ourselves briefly experience them. So let's sit with that for a minute. And we all, again, these are common experiences. We all have these experiences. So what are some ways that you experience that in your body and in your senses? Experience of a glimmer of ventral. You can put it in the chat if you want. Yeah, when you hope this moment or time never ends. Yeah. Yeah, that would be a time when you're really enjoying it. Ease, opening, slow down, let go. And that's something that is really how our system works too, is that we always want the good things to stay and we always never want the bad things to stay or to come. So have sweet calm, bringing a moment into my deeper heart's ease, fully present, warmth in my heart, deep connection. And we can experience these with ourselves. Sometimes we'll have just a moment of well being that doesn't really seem to be connected to something else. Certainly with some people. And of course, it's not all or nothing with people. Sometimes we'll have that experience with a certain person, and another time we won't. Just to really, there's something about connection in ventral vagal, heart space. So if you think back to or just kind of bring up a vivid memory of a glimmer, and then notice what that feels like. Have it with dogs and horses. Yes, absolutely. And we can have different experiences, like with my dog. She's just all about fun. I don't really think about her as a wise old soul or something like that. I was talking with a friend about that. But she's just always fun. I'll sit down and she'll just start looking around for something fun to do. Oh, here's my toy. And I'll throw her the same thing in this little tiny house over and over. And she always has fun every time. So that's something that she's always experiencing, that nature too. Yeah. So this is a process of visualizing. And these are ways that we can experience somatically in our body these different systems. So the dorsal system is the one that we share with reptiles and other animals. It develops first in terms of evolution. And then much later, the sympathetic fight and flight came along. And then our ventral vagal only develops at about 30 weeks in the womb and through the first 2 years of life. And it was much later evolutionarily as well. And when we talk about the polyvagal system, we're talking about diaphragm up is the ventral vagal. It's the part that really is for humans. So we're going to take several minutes for this, and then we're going to break into small groups for just to share what we notice. So I'll just name them, and we'll take about a minute or so with each. So you could imagine, just not to kind of think about it or try to figure it out, but just try to feel into. So there's that dorsal vagal, which is the state of collapse, freeze, numb. I just want the world to go away. So that dorsal vagal, imagine if you were to kind of feel that in your nervous system. This is diaphragm down. So it's our gut. And what would the color, is there a color associated with this? And don't worry if you don't have this. Don't worry if you don't have a visual. Just to notice, feel into that or sense into it. Imagine what the color might be for dorsal vagal. And then if you were to have a hand motion, would it be probably not open, probably not hands on your heart, probably some kind of something that's a bit more closed down. So, what hand motions might go with the dorsal vagal, that state of freeze? Dark clenched hands, fist, black, yeah. And so then now come into the sympathetic. So, sympathetic has got more energy to it. This is when we're coming up out of dorsal into sympathetic fight or flight. And imagine the color again. What's the color if you were to think about that part of your system? Fight or flight, sympathetic arousal, and what hand motions might go with that. Orange, red, flaying hands, muted color, hand on self, bright colors, hands lifted, flowing, sort of stiff jazz hands. Yeah. Hands pushing away in defense. And then take a couple of breaths and sense into the ventral vagal system. So this is our heart and up. Sense if there's a color, there are any motions with your body or your hands, and not to think about it again, just to kind of sense into it. Bright sunshine, hands open to the world, blue or green, purple hands hugging. Isn't it interesting how we experience this? Pinks, purples, open hands. Greens, yellows, open hands. Welcoming hands. There's something very powerful about our hands. Mm. Light jade green, hands holding each other lovingly. Yeah, this is a real ventral anchor too when we hold our own hands. So then let's go into the last paragraph there. What represents each circle? So she's made a couple suggestions, holding three balls of light of different sizes. If you're not very visual, maybe three streams of energy. You could just kind of close your eyes for a minute and sense into that. What would represent these three different systems, parts of our system? And I would also maybe add what kind of breathing happens with each kind. And is the body tight, contracted? What's that? So, balls of different sizes. Dorsal is the tightest and smallest, sympathetic, more open and larger. Stone, very little breathing, would be dorsal. Ventral is larger and more flowing and open. I was kind of sensing into a very sluggish, cold stream of energy, not even a stream really, with dorsal. And then a little bit more of a stream like you see with the sun or something, with that red and lots of activity there. And then with ventral is just more like a gently flowing stream or a lake. Dorsal I see as a bolted lock. Night sky dorsal, campfire sympathetic. A ventral is a tree spout. All of these inside clear balls. So this is a warm ventral embrace. So let's all just take a moment to come into our body, Hold your hands, look around the room, look around the Zoom room, just to anchor yourself in ventral. So when we talk about how it feels in dorsal, it's kind of the opposite of that in ventral. So where it's not cold and dark and stuck, it's expansive, it's open, we're engaged. So feel how your system is feeling kind of grounded. And if you're not feeling that grounded, then that's just what you're feeling. But notice it from ventral. Notice I can be here present enough to see what's going on in my system. And then if you were to bring to mind somebody that you regularly exchange your company with, somebody that you meet with in person, or a good friend that you meet with online or something. And let's take a moment to, from this groundedness in ventral, how might you share that with them? So let's start with both of you are fairly well regulated. So if the other person's not in a complete freeze, they're maybe not in ventral, but there's something that's a little bit unsteady about them. Maybe there's some kind of pain or suffering. What might that feel like in your body? And what might you do with your hands and arms as you share your ventral energy with them? So you could close your eyes if you want. Just really feel it in your body. Feel your own groundedness. And then bring up this other person, if it's a visual or a felt sense, might be a memory of something, an exchange, somebody who's had a tough week somehow. And then in your body, share that ventral energy with them. But just for now, notice what that feels like from your side of it. You're the one that's more regulated, and you're offering them an energetic hug, some ventral energy. And you might notice things you might say or do. There could be nonverbal as well as verbal exchange. And if you would open your arms normally, or if you would hug them, you could make the motions with your arms. Really feel that too. What does it feel like if you're hugging them? Let yourself feel the sensations, the maybe the smells, the sounds, the motion of their breath. And then touch into what that might feel like for them as they receive this energy from you. And then come back, open your eyes,